Welcome, everyone. This is Polly Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week we have with us Terry Edwin,
Hi,
Sanswinda,
Hello.
Krister,
Hello.
and Cinders.
Hello.
And please welcome our special guest for tonight, the Master of LOTRO, Maven.
Hey, y'all. God, I get to be a special guest. That's pretty awesome.
Let's then head into our game news for this week, where we had Bowler Update 24 preview number 3, which, if all things go, 25 that is. I don't know why I had.
Yeah, it's update 25.
Yeah, 25 preview number 3. And this is expected to be the final Bowler build prior to the release, because that is still, last I heard, scheduled for Tuesday, November 5th.
Yeah, Cord was pretty definite about that yesterday. He kept getting asked, and he said it was on track. He, I don't know. We'll see, huh? Still,
yeah, he keeps on saying it's on track, and people keep on it.
People keep saying, "How can it be?"
Right. Oh, well. Yes. In any case, Minas Morgul is closer to release. And we had a note, right? The new build, of course, and the character copy was available for the servers that did not yet have it. Now, at this point, all servers have had the maintenance done on them. So I would presume at some point they will figure out what they need to do in order to get character transfers working again and all that fun stuff. I'm sure we'll hear more when that happens. But I have a feeling that's not going to happen until after things settle down from the update. And of course, we had the usual stuff where they're mentioning things from before. Same for instances were there. And also for items, armor values bonus scaling on the shield of the Hammerhand has been increased, so the total amount of armors are more appropriate. Finally, Woven, the standard of the veteran's captain's physical mastery, was adjusted. Bjornings will now receive heavy armor from the Gift of the Valor, Blessing of the Valor, and Aria of the Valor.
Hooray!
Universal potions, food, scrolls of max morale and power in the store now buff restore morale and power instead of based on percentage of max values. And oh yeah, because those scrolls were,
Oh yeah.
what was it, something like 130 or some ridiculously small number?
Yeah. Yes.
Like they were like useless if you're more than level 10.
Right. Right. I'm glad they're doing that. That's gonna make them actually useful.
Yeah. And fixed though are visuals on weapons that were incorrect either by scale or position. This does not fix visuals on arrows that weren't visible or were partially visible. For the Runekeeper, reduced Word of Exaltation bubble magnitude down by -5% to about 35% max. Fixed broken string reference in the Word of Exaltation damage reduction effect. Rousing words, about 20% reduction on heal pulses, somewhat overpowered from the last round, so it's splitting the difference. So I'm sure all the Runekeepers were saying it was fine the previous build because. Expanded Fates Intertwine radius to 20 meters and increased Stone Max Vitality by 50%.
Woohoo!
Increased Unwavering Confidence by about 12%. Increased Rune of Restoration heal pulses by about 30%.
Sparkle
Searing
Heals.
Words.
Sparkle Heals is what my Runekeeper named her Rune of Restoration.
Ah, okay.
I think mine's just help, but I still like Always Be Gone, which is Feedback's rune.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Always Be Gone.
Searing Words from separate sources should now stack on a single target.
Nice.
Bombastic Inspiration initial heal increased by about 10%. And Mending Burst will stay as is for now. In recent tests, it remains an overweight component in the healing rotation, and we want to see if these other changes, particularly cast time fixes, allow for more balanced and interesting rotations as players get used to the new values. They also snuck in some changes for the Warden, and they made a note on this that yes, the player base were asking for a completely different set of changes on the Wardens, but that was not feasible in time for this update, which is why they chose to do these, which they found they were actually capable of doing, and those are Warden skill damage and damage effects have been adjusted upwards. Several Warden defensive buffs now share icons with the skills that generated them. Warden buff enduring shield work duration increased from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Warden buff enduring advanced shield work increased, but basically a lot of buffs were increased from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And as for miscellaneous, you can now earn up to 94 class trait points after completing the Black Book of Mordor. Up to 94 class trait points can be spent in your class trait trees. And that's what we had for update 25, preview number 3. So let's head into the beacon, unless someone has something else they wish to add concerning the Bolvar update.
Well, I was just going to say, I finally got to see the Valor package, and I'm really excited about it.
Ooh.
So, I think they did an excellent job.
It sounds like they finally got, it sounds like they finally figured out
and I'm really excited to see the live version and use it.
We may or may not have plans to pop a couple characters out.
Yeah, Cord said yesterday that they designed it so that a player using that package, I mean, this should have been always the case, but the player using that package could go into the new area and be, like not die.
I tried
not die,
could actually play.
Like all of the other Valor
exactly.
packages.
Yes.
Okay,
so
what they should have done on all the other Valor packages.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Okay, so on Bolvar, I had logged in and I got the package with the Valor in it in my box, and I was like, man, I'm already 120. So I put it in shared storage at the little vault keeper, rolled a new level 5 character, took them in, took the package, bamped them up to 120. I was impressed. The allies were ready to go. They had good titles on them that were actually dealing Balerian damage, so you weren't having to worry about common damage. They had the relics that they needed, the setting, the gem, and the rune, and they were good. They had enough DPS
points,
enough legacies. They're imbued already, and they had enough legacies leveled up to the point where you can actually kill a level 120 mob, which was pretty awesome because you're level 120. And then you got 92 trade points.
And you said imbued legacy replacement scrolls too, right?
3 imbued legacy replacement scrolls and 2 imbued items that were class specific. And you could pick
first stage, right? First stage.
They said first stage, but they were teal. I've heard that it's going to be fixed so they will be actual first stage items, which
he
makes
said
me
yesterday
even
they're
more
going to fix
excited
it.
about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, I was happy with them. I am very excited about this. And
Sans, I have a question, and I think this is important. Now, when you use the Valar, are you going to use it on one of your legion of existing characters, or are you going to be crazy enough to create a new character?
He has no opinion, mind you.
I've created the new character to use it on already, so it will be an existing character as of this moment. If you had asked this last week, the answer would be I would be rolling a new one.
But listen, Sans, you haven't gotten to the most important part yet.
No, I haven't. Okay, so the next
armor.
The heroic armor that's titled heroic armor does not look like you're wearing white long johns anymore.
Yay!
It actually looks heroic, and it has good stats. And so, there's still gonna be holes that you'll have to fill fill in. Your war steed's gonna be leveling for a while and stuff. But that's no problem, because, like, with this armor on and these weapons, when the Veilfly one-shots your war steed, you can turn around and epically slay the Veilfly instead of, like, ending up in the res circle. So, yeah, but no, I really liked the look of the armor that they've got. I hope the look stays the same, because I really want that armor in my wardrobe. And,
Now, the one thing is that the crafting tiers still start at 0. But the thing is, if you're like Sans and you have a jillion alts that are already crafted up, who cares, right?
well, yeah, I mean, that's not, to me, that's not a super important thing for my alts to have. They're going to be 120 and they can go back and get the stuff and not have to worry about getting killed while picking up the material.
That's true. That's true.
And yeah, you got the 92 trait points to start with. So it took a little bit of time to, like, unwrap everything and equip it and read tooltips and, like, spend the trait points, and I was ready to go on landscape. It didn't take any backtracking. It didn't take, like, there were some choices to make with the virtues, but the virtues were good enough, like, just straight out into the starting the Shades in the Swamp on ramp, and it was good. Like,
And that's where you landed, right? You said you actually, when you did the Valor, you were right in the Bjorning house with Gandalf ready to start.
I was
right?
just totally ready to start it. Nice atmosphere, right in front of the quest giver. I could run outside, meet the stable master, set my milestone, come back inside and go. It was perfect. So yeah, I am so excited about this Valor. It's going to be very tempting to, like, Valor all of my characters that are not already 120.
There is a voice of reason in the house. That probably will not actually happen.
It probably will not actually happen,
considering
but this
that
is
they're
a
not
very,
yet available.
very tempting. Yeah, they're not even available in the store yet, from what I can tell. However, this is a very good Valor package, from what I can tell. So, yeah.
That's a good report.
That was my Bull Aurora report from this week that I think everybody should know, because I'm really looking forward to it.
Anything else before we continue? Then let's head into the beacon for this week, issue 135, where we have a very, very nasty monster on the top today. A very ugly monster.
Seen that one before.
Yeah. We got, I sometimes refer to him as Watcher 2.0. Yeah.
Son of Watcher.
Yes,
I
Son
said-
of Watcher.
That's the one
Actually,
in
it could be
Kitzur
Father of
Kala,
Watcher,
correct?
based on how old this creature is supposed to be, right?
Maybe.
Probably
Yeah,
true. Good point.
I could see that. And yeah, this is Kitzalkala.
Yeah. The depths of Kitsutala. Let's into our community spotlight, where Horror Night hits Langeville on Saturday.
Tonight.
And that was tonight, yes. So if you're listening live, you'll know that. Of course, it's pretty late already. And a group of people on Siranan have created a Discord server for the French-speaking community with more than 1,000 members. There's plenty of chat and grouping. 1,000 people. Woo!
Yeah. Wow.
Can you keep up with all the conversation on a Discord with 1,000 people on it? I have no trouble with 10.
Well, I'm guessing they're not all on at one time, which would help.
I would hope they're not all talking at once either. They're probably like split in a bunch of different servers or channels within the server.
Well, yes, there is that. But I was thinking of the text chat that's going on in the various channels and all that.
I don't know. Sometimes world chat looks like that.
Well, yeah, you do have a point
I
there.
don't keep up with that either. So
Well, that's because I have it filtered out, so I never see world chat.
I filter it into its own separate tab. Occasionally, I look over at it.
Ah,
From time to time, it's worth it. It's worth it, finally. Some fascinating things are said in the world.
Sometimes it's really funny. Sometimes it's informative, but those times are rarer.
yeah.
It
And
was really helpful last year with the harvest math with the trick-or-treating, because people were putting in world chat where you could go to find the trick-or-treating things. So my very sad hobbit went to being a very happy hobbit because she could find.
The other thing for me is whenever there's a new area, like for example, this next week when Morgul comes out, I've found World Chat to be really helpful because I'm trying to figure stuff out. Where is this bloody, you know? And so I'll put it out in World Chat, and there's always somebody helpful to like let me know, like where do I find the quest giver for XYZ. So, but then everybody gets to the point where they know everything, and then it goes back to silly conversations like Christopher was talking about.
Let's then head into the. Let's see what next. Oh, Arkenstone also has a Discord server as well that's open to all. So I suspect you'll have trouble understanding all the conversation unless you're on Arkenstone. And you could help the Hobbity Yule calendar. You help the calendar?
Yeah, it hasn't started yet.
All right. The Hobbity Yule calendar for 2019. I see. Are you dreaming of a Hobbity Yule? Let's make that dream come true together. In the past 2 years, the Hobbits of the Grand Order of the Lost Matham Kinship have put together a Hobbity Yule calendar sharing their Yule-themed pictures, recipes, songs, poems, and videos to each other's day from 1st through 24th of December. The calendar has been quite popular, getting people into a cheerful Yule mood. So it would be lovely to organize this calendar this year as well. This time, though, we would need your help. Do you have something to add to the calendar entry? Here are some examples of entries. A Yule-themed picture, LOTRO screenshot, slideshow, drawing, or a video made by you. A Yule poem, story, or song. An introduction to your local Yule tradition you'd like to share with other hobbits. Your favorite Yule recipe. And Yule decorations, ideas, riddles, and games, etc. And if you like, and you could send information to them in order to participate in this. But that is the Hobbity Yule calendar for 2019 on Picella's Tales, or
Picella.
Picella? All right.
Picella, because she's a pie
Oh,
seller.
Pice! Oh boy. Should have known. Picella, of course.
Hobbits, it's always about pie.
Yeah. And Yiki is in the final week of streaming to raise money for Game Pink. And click to know how you could help on that. But of course, if that's in the final week, then that'll probably be finished by the time we post the episode. For the Kin Hall, my goal Estelle is a Belegair-based role-playing kinship looking for more people, and you could check out their kinship website on the link. And now for our weekly comment. If a book were written about one of your characters, what would the title of the book be?
Ooh.
Wild and Reckless.
Apropos.
Okay, mine would, but it requires a little bit of explanation.
Uh-oh.
I valored my champion up to 115, and I didn't want to, advertise that fact. So as I was grouping, though, I realized something really embarrassing was happening, and that was that my horse team was leveling. So mine would be an inconvenient horse team.
It was true. He'd get so ticked off every time his horse would level.
Yeah, it was just like totally embarrassing. It was just like, oh, grats, I guess.
He's like, who did that? That wasn't me. Somebody else did that. I was thinking about that when Sans was saying that the horse would have to level in the new area if you Valor, and I thought, oh, Krister's going to be pissed again.
I mean, it's going to gain levels quickly, so it'll be over quickly. But
Yeah, you just want it to gain levels by itself with
By
nobody
itself,
else around.
not
Yeah.
grouping. Yeah.
It's really funny. I would say mine would probably be Wild and Reckless too, because my characters tend to follow the path of Sanswin does.
Well, mine. I have multiple characters as bad as Sans, except in my case they tend to end up with their own stories anyway. But honestly, if any of my characters would be in a book, it would have to be Sarissa, and the title would be Tales of a Wandering Minstrel. No, really, a minstrel.
I was thinking you were going to call it a well-dressed killing machine because that describes many of your characters. Even
Well,
the one...
that would actually probably be Terry's book.
Yes. But yes, Tales of a Traveling Minstrel.
But that would actually probably be more of a fashion magazine, and you'd have like all the little fancy layouts of the different outfits. For an actual book, it would definitely be Adventures of a Wandering Minstrel. No, really, a minstrel, because that would be Sarissa all over.
Yeah,
They would either be that or Nothing to See Here.
Right,
Mine would probably be something like From Glass Cannon to Blazing Bow, or something like that. Because when I was first playing Gloria, I mean, she was my first character anyway. I was so tentative. I would sweat while I was playing areas because I was so like stressed out.
Oh yeah,
And
I
then, remember? And if I was soloing, I would only go into areas if I was overloaded area because I was just so nervous. I mean, yeah, Terry had to like guide me through like Mori instances.
I'd be like, it's okay, really. You can
oh
come
my
through
God.
here. It's really fine.
And now I'm like, because I was like doing instances today, the daily instances, and I'm like, yeah, 3 wandering globes, no problem, bring it on. 6 wargs, not a problem. I mean, like, I was just like, boy, that's a change. So definitely it would be like From Glass Cannon to like Blazing Bow.
I think you can guess the title of my book.
Skirmishing responsibly.
Please.
Well, I was going to say Skirmish from Middle Earth, but I think you got a better one there. Yeah, Skirmish responsibly, please. Yes, I think.
Well, Terry's also could be Pew Pews Must Die. That could be another.
That is true.
You know. I was thinking about that because
that would be the
like,
subtitle of Well Dressed Killing Machine.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I'd say that would be like an epic saga, though.
Because I was thinking because Pine Leaf's tagline, of course, is Skirmish Responsibly. So I was thinking, make sure your tagline's in there somewhere.
Well, let's head into our fan site news where we traveled through time last time, apparently.
Yeah, what was that about?
Wasn't that the name of the episode last week?
Yeah.
Well, I know, but I didn't actually listen to the episode, and I wasn't here for the show.
So on Bulver, last week, not this last week, but the week before, I went into the second age on my high elf, who she went back in time, basically.
Okay.
To the battle that she had missed because she was knocked out and sleeping.
Because she was in a coma.
Yeah. And yeah, so I time traveled.
Yeah. I was wondering if any high elves are going to roleplay it as if they were there, but that they woke up in time for that section and that they're knocked out again at the end of the storyline for that area.
I don't know. I mean,
that'd be kind of cool if they did that.
Knowing that she wasn't there, but yeah, she was really feeling out of place that week though, because she was walking around in her armor looking for anybody with the same armor, and going, "Was I really wearing the right armor to the fight that I was in? Like, I don't know." But no, they did a really good job with it, and there's a reason that I have been getting characters to that point in the Black Book as fast as I can, so that I can go chase that story. because I really want to know what happens next.
Ah. Then Winnie's Musing recently celebrated a year of streaming. French Girl Gaming streams LOTRO, hosts other LOTRO streamers, and has a cool channel. You could click to watch some channels. Bias60 is going on a great adventure, and he's looking for you to join him. And LOTRO Stream is your one-stop shop for LOTRO live streaming and a great place to find new streamers. Check out recent shows on Uger, Mort, and our newest streamer, Kaidan. And YouTube is also home for many LOTRO video makers. You could check out recent shows by Don't Panic, Pikmintero, Snigby Gaming, and Andang. And Squirrel has put together a probably good Minas Morgul prep guide. Actually, we'll be talking about that a little bit later. And our screenshot of the week is Max sent in the screenshot of the week through email, and it seemed pretty appropriate for the holidays. Thanks for sending it in. And that is it. So that concludes our beacon for this week. So let's head into our store sales. And Terry, what's on sale this week?
Not a bunch of good stuff.
Oh.
But the Harvest Math Festival got extended by a week. You get 20% off keys, legacy tier upgrades, legendary items, stat upgrades, universal solvents, now through November 7th, blah. And the weekly coupon gets you a free 10% run speed boost times 5 for 90 minutes with the coupon code GOFAST now through November 7th. Except I tend to run with a pocket hunter, so they're totally useless for me.
Something about the sales. If anybody's jonesing to go get keys, be warned that the keys that are on sale are only the single keys, not the times 5.
Yes.
So if you get the times 5, you're actually paying more this week than you are for the single keys. I mean, if you get 5 single keys. So, but can you tell that they're anticipating the upgrade? I mean, the new area to come out with all these specials.
Yeah, I don't care. I have loot boxes filtered out across my account, so I don't get loot boxes.
Then let's head into our site news where we have Where's Middle Earth? Where in Middle Earth is Emeralina number 27. And it looks like Emeralina is talking to Sans.
Yep.
She was.
So, therefore, this week is Where are Emeralina and Sanswinda, I guess.
Yes, technically.
Technically. And of course, we have of course had last week's where they were on Dragonbone Inn in Lake Town.
Yep, waiting to get mugged.
Waiting to get mugged.
Waiting to get mugged.
Yeah, it was that instance. And I had to take the picture though because she was sitting so perfectly. Like she was just sitting there so nicely, just like tapping her knee, patiently waiting to get mugged.
And also we had, as mentioned in the Beacon, Squirrel posted a probably good Minas Morgul prep guide. What you need in order to get ready for Minas Morgul. And it says, a short, non-definitive guide to what you could do to prepare for the Minas Morgul expansion. And why probably good is the amount of betas are limited, and even then, the most information hasn't been confirmed to be 100% correct. So we're working on a lot of assumptions and guesses. Yes, there is always that. So yes, he's making a few guesses here, and what he learned from earlier releases and all that. Not that I usually do too much. The main thing I'm doing in order to get ready is to get the character to the position I want them to be when the release is made. Which meant A, trying to clear out some quest logs, and B, I think I'm still trying to decide who's going to get my jump to level 120 when that comes around. Do I create a new character or get an existing one?
Don't do it, Pine Leaf.
What?
Don't create a new one. Don't fall into the trap.
But creating new characters is so much fun.
Well, I have to see what I have on Crick Hollow currently.
Pile's been spending too much time with Sam Swindler when he's ready to start Valarian characters.
Well, I'm given this Valor, so I have to decide what to do with it, right? Now let's head into Terry's pick of the week. And it looks like a Grim Executioner?
Yeah, I did a blog post this week. Actually, I did a blog post today. But I've had this outfit sitting around since last year because the Mask of the Autumn Wanderer that came out at last year's Harvest Mask Festival was really awesome. And I was inspired to create an outfit around it. And this is what I came up with. And I finally made it to the blog. And it's all a bunch of Dunlin stuff.
All a bunch of Dunlin. You really love your Dunlin stuff.
I do love my Dunlin cosmetics. It's true. The hauberk you can actually also find at Lalia's Market. There's a cosmetic copy there. The gloves are the Grey Company gloves, which I also really like, but you could swap any plainish looking gauntlet for them, and then the boots could also be swapped for something else. It's really the mask and the hauberk and kind of the shoulders that make the look, because the shoulders are what have that neck piece attached. So it's like a metal looking thing that protects your neck as opposed to the necks that you're going to chop off with that axe.
Yeah.
Because he's wielding a headsman's axe.
You don't want to accidentally chop off your own head, that's for sure.
No, that would be bad.
It does not. It's not good form if you do so.
Right. And then for people who are curious, the top image, the featured image, is actually taken in the Breed jail, interacting with a prisoner.
Mm-hmm. And that prisoner is trying his best to get his arm out.
Well, he's trying to reach through the bars and beckon to you is what he's doing. They get very needy, some of the prisoners. They plead with you and stuff. There's no like text that goes with it, but you can tell by their actions. It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not too sure if someone visiting a jail is going to, just because a prisoner begs to be released. Yeah, really?
Hey, though, in their defense, we do run around and release a lot of prisoners from jails.
True. Okay, you do have
when
a
we're
point
asked
with that.
to.
They don't always deserve it either.
Yes.
Right?
You do have a point there. Let's head into our new player question. And what's our question this week?
Well, this is my question because Krister laughed at me and mocked me last week. So I wanted to get clear about this. Is there a difference between being a level cap character playing on level in the, latest area and playing end game? Is there a difference between those two?
I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Obviously Krister thinks there's a difference because he laughed at me.
Allow me to repeat that.
Well, then we probably should hear Krister's answer to that question.
Yeah.
Because now I'm really curious.
Boy, I totally put on the spot here. I didn't.
Yep.
Maybe I was laughing.
Well,
maybe I was laughing at something else.
No, I should probably explain to the listeners that Krister just mocks me, as a matter of course. So that could have been completely meaningless. He just mocks me anyway. So it could be that there's not, there isn't a difference. Well, I mean, I did ask somebody last night, and they did make the distinction of, like, for example, at the various end games that we've had, like Wildermore, for example, they added that whole Survivors of Wildermore section. Dal Amroth, we had, because people were at level cap for a long period of time, and so then they were quote unquote playing end game. New quests came out basically that were end game quests. But I just always thought if you're level capped and playing in the on level, you're basically playing end game. And I didn't know if it had anything to do with, oh no, you have to be a raider, or you have to have be doing all this extra stuff that regular level cap people don't do. So I didn't know if there was a
Well,
difference.
first of all, it's definitely not only specific to raiding, because Hootbold was considered end game content.
Right. Okay, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Hitbold was a good one. Wildermore is a good example. Dal Amroth is an example of that
Yes.
too. Yeah.
That was
Okay.
during the phase when there weren't as many raids, and yes, the end game were those. But
Okay.
yes, usually it's the high-end instances that are for the latest zone is what's usually considered to be end game.
End game, as opposed to like being in, say, Vales, right? And you're just doing landscape questing. That's
Right.
not necessarily end game.
Yeah, landscape isn't considered to be end game, but doing the
Right.
dailies is end
Right.
game.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, Krister probably doesn't remember because he just laughs at me all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So,
There's so many instances.
so many times, so much. Right. That's right. Okay, but I just, so that was just something I was curious about, because I got to thinking about it afterwards, and I thought, well, maybe I am using it inappropriate, using it wrongly. I can't remember even what I said that made
So I
him
have a
do
question.
it.
Like, based off this question, how many characters do you have at level cap, Krister?
Well, boy, you're just gonna have to.
I was just curious.
Okay, so.
Well, wait while you count.
Really, what she's asking, Krister, is how many she needs to have a goal for.
No, I was just curious. He might have one, he might have two, he might have a lot. I don't know.
I have 3 characters in level cap. I have my captain, who's my main, and then I have my lore master and my Bjorn.
Okay.
One of your Bjornings.
Yeah, of course. I don't have many characters. I have, I think 13. I think.
Oh, Shaw.
But I don't play any of them. I just play a couple of them. But of course, what's the character or the class I repeat? A Bjorning for some reason. So that.
Stupid bears.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question, Krister. Of your 3 level capped characters, how many do you consider end game?
Krister.
Okay.
It's
just
never,
the captain.
Yeah, I'm played my captain. I fell in love with the captain the first week the game opened. It was the perfect class for me, and so I never was really interested in other classes unless I was doing support, or, unfortunately, when I started to actually do crafting halfway through my career, and that was an agony, crafting all those guys, getting all those guys gilded up. But that's when I started playing the other characters, and then of course we had some parties we had put together, purpose parties. So we had one where we all started a new character that we hadn't played before, so that's where my little Hobbit mini came up. And then we had our bear buddies, which are all Bjornings. So I just created more characters over time, but really Krister is the main. Everybody works for Krister. Including you guys.
Right.
I mean, especially if I'm on my menstrual. Okay, so just out of curiosity though, so for your alts, when you consider end game, like, is Krister end game just because he's done all the regular content and the rest haven't? Or is he end game because he's your main? Or is he end game because he's the only one you want to take into a raid?
He's end game pretty much because he has everything unlocked. A couple of the other ones were leveled quickly through particular areas, so they skipped a lot of things, and so I might not have something unlocked. But I think we all run across that too.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you can unlock it really quick because people are nice that we're grouping with. But Krister's just the one that I can say that no matter what we're going to do, no matter where we're going to go, I know my equipment's up to the task, and I know that I won't be a hindrance in joining any raid anywhere. besides my personality, of course. That's always a anchor.
That's a hindrance. Yeah, that's a hindrance, but that's okay. I think that's actually a really good definition. He's the most well-rounded. He's been through like everything. His deeds log is good, so he doesn't have holes, right? Like you said,
Yeah,
like a lot of
he's
our
just
characters have
ready
holes.
to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just instantly ready to go. And I think I got lucky just in terms of playing the captain, because the captains are common, but you typically can get into any group with your captain and not have to switch out.
Right. Cool. Well, that was good. Actually, that was very educational.
I decided to look up on MMOchampions.com what their opinion was. And there is actually a thread there where they're debating this very question.
Really?
And
Wow.
they added a poll to the item on the opinions very sides of it, and 65%, so about a little bit under 2/3 of them, said all applicable content at max level, which means all avails of Anduin by that definition would be end game. So therefore, it was a little bit more lenient than what I was saying. It would be pretty close to what you were saying then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
The second highest at 28% was hardest content at max level, meaning the raids and the like.
At like tier 5.
Yeah. And the 6% said other, and I presume maybe for other might have been like the answer I just had given when I said that perhaps it was any content like dailies or anything like that. I presume that's what fell under other, most likely, which would be something that's in between the two that I just mentioned. But it looks like that there is no definitive definition.
So we're back to, who was it that said, I think it was Sans said, depends on who you ask.
Depends on
Yes.
who you ask. That is exactly what that answer pretty much comes out. But it looks like the most common answer is any content intended for max level.
Max level.
In which case, the Veils of Anduin would be end game because that was at level cap, all at level cap.
I think I can clarify the dividing line between the opinions as well, because for me, I had two distinct careers in LOTRO. The first career was getting up to max level, and at that point, I never rated, so I would have said that my end game was I got to max level, I'm in the final area, I'm at end game. Right. When I started rating, however, that started my second career in LOTRO, and that was basically a whole new game. And so at that point, anytime I would hear end game, I would say, "Oh, we're doing raids. That's raids. That's the hard stuff." So I could see where the opinions would differ, because if somebody wasn't rating, they just simply wouldn't have had that experience to compare it.
That's a good point.
That comparative experience.
I think a lot of it, your opinion of endgame changes based on where in the game you are. Like if you're not anywhere close to max level, your opinion of endgame is probably whatever you can do at max level, as opposed to if you're already at max level, your opinion of endgame is, well, what's left after I've done all the regular content. So like your dailies and your instances and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or PvP at that point.
PvP, for some people, that is their end game. Yes.
I mean, for some people, it is end game, especially for a lot of people who play Freeps. End game is going into the moors as opposed to raiding.
True. I know that's one of the things that came up during the discussion threads on Bull Roar, was that I hadn't thought of this before, but I've always wondered, why are people who aren't doing raids worrying about raid quality gear? And of course, I hadn't thought about that. You have this group of the population whose end game is PvP. And when your end game is that, you're not going to be doing the raiding to get the raid level gear. So how are you going to get, they want something, they want top end in order to go into the moors. So
my warg is totally content with them not having it.
yeah, I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because PvMP still really needs a lot of work.
Yes, because until PvMP is balanced such a way that you need raid gear to do it, and last I heard, I think the Freeps have the advantage right now.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I think
Well,
it
it
was
would be.
Fastin who said they were going to work on it, but
Yeah, they're going to work
right
on
now
it,
the
but
Freeps have an advantage, and they're hoping to get the creeps up to speed before the Freeps all hit level cap.
yeah, or at
Which
least I think I think he didn't say all, but I think he said it's the average player or something like that hits level cap, I think, or some term like that. Meaning,
could be.
yeah, they're not going to gauge by the person who does it in 24 hours.
Or in a couple.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that, but all right.
I don't know, but there were people running around at level level 100 within hours of Dol Amroth being out.
Jeez.
And then other people complaining that they couldn't get there based on the quests in the area.
Yeah.
Well, I would be really curious. So I know that there are some like cosmetics and stuff that you can only pick up in the moors. And if they were to do raid level gear for people who do PvMP as end game, if they were to make it down to the moors like those, if that would be a way for non-raiding players to access the same kind of gear.
I know that in the early days they did have PvMP gear, which I think you used to get with was it with Destiny points that you used to buy that stuff?
I have no idea. It's all combinations now.
Yeah, it's all
It was
combination.
before my time.
Yeah. I can't go remember because I know that Destiny points used to be tied into PvMP, but I don't think it is anymore.
No, now you get them on your level.
Right. All right. Anything else concerning level cap and all that? Then let's take a little trip into a review of Veils of the Anduin.
Is this where we have our
Warning.
spoiler alert?
Oh, yes, we are going to have spoiler alerts because it is time to look first, of course, into the books 9 and 10 of the Black Book of Mordor, where we'll continue with what we are going on there. So if you wish to avoid any spoilers, this might be a good time to tune out and let's say let's go about 10 minutes forward.
Yeah.
And you'll see where we are at that time. Thus, what we have then is back into book 9, where you are still at Scarhold, where you'll start out with the aftermath of recovering from the first promise, which did quite a bit of havoc to Scarhold out there, and a decision that they make that they want to have an expedition to the Anvil of Winterstith.
Because how can this go wrong?
Because how
They
could
are
this go wrong? Yes, that is exactly. What could possibly go wrong if you make an expedition to the Anvil?
nothing. Nothing at all.
Yes, and at the end of that chapter, at the end of chapter 9.2, is where they say that if you want to run the raid at the perfect point in the storyline, this is where you do it, because this is supposedly then where the raid takes place within the 9.2 storyline. So if you've ever done the raid, then you have a pretty good idea of how the expedition to the Anvil goes?
I have
I mean,
not
it
done
went
the move, but I've heard
fantastic.
about it. It goes poorly.
It totally went fantastic a few times. I mean, we escaped anyway.
Well, there is that. After that, they then go and have this little problem where they think that they found another way in which someone could possibly get into Scarhold, and that is through some tunnels that are in the back of the keep where they've got the vault and all. So naturally, you go and explore these tunnels that are in there. And you have to figure out where they lead to, and can we collapse these tunnels and all that fun stuff.
Because walking into spiderweb filled tunnels is totally what we like to do.
Mhm.
Yes,
They weren't
I'm
too
sure
spidery. I'll give them that, but they weren't too friendly either. I think I did a very good job collapsing the end of it, though.
you enjoyed collapsing it, I'm sure, yes.
I mean, it looked like there was no possible way for anything to get through anymore.
Yes.
A very thorough job.
Yes. After doing that, you speak to Gandalf, and he starts to saying that he's deciphered some of the stuff that's in the Black Book. And you start to hear his telling of some of the items that are in there. And this is when at least I started to come up with all sorts of crazy hypotheses on what's going on in the Black Book, because they introduce a new character. And I'm wondering, is this character possibly could be the origins of Karazgar or anything like that? I think somebody on the forums said something which says that that's impossible, but I don't know enough about the full history. I don't remember all the details to it to say, all right, that's right, because he feels that Karazgar predates what was at the last Battle of the Last Alliance. If Karazgar was at the Battle of the Last Alliance, obviously he could not be the character from the Black Book of Mordor.
I'm still in favor of it.
Yes, we'll see. We will have to see, because we're going back to the Last Alliance to find out, in the next zone, and I'm assuming that we are going to get some information as to whose Karazgar is, who this elf is, and all this fun stuff.
Well, there were two things that occurred to me the other day when I was going back through the Black Book. One is that that elf was described by somebody who knew. I can't remember who it was. Elrond? Glorfindel? Somebody said that elf hung out a lot with Isildur and Anarion. And then Isildur's ghost talks about that someone in his group betrayed him. So I thought, that actually to me lends more weight to the idea that this elf is Karazgar.
Yes. In which case that elf was already Karazgar even at that early point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what little we know about Karazgar is that he wasn't always wounded the way he is now. That actually came later.
Yeah, that
so
came
it's entirely
done by
possible
Dragon.
that he could have already been, corrupted at the time that he was doing all of this other stuff.
Right.
And only later, and because didn't Gandalf say that that Karazgar might have been looking for his original identity? So he could have had another identity and just recently took on the name of Karazgar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I
based
think it was
on
his name, because I just watched that 17-minute lecture from Gandalf again. I think he decided that maybe instead of a Bugdatish, he was looking for a Bugadash, his birth name.
Yeah.
Right.
So, So Karazgar is a more recent identity that came about because of all of the stuff that happened because he was playing around with dragons at Sauron's Sauron's instruction, which just goes to show you how little he knew, because nobody should really be poking dragons.
Oh, yes.
Like, how did you really expect that to end?
Well, of course, because what could possibly go wrong with that idea?
Right.
Ah, yes. And actually, what
Perhaps he
actually
had
happened,
dwarvish roots.
yeah, actually, I got the timeline a little bit off on here. What actually happens at the point that I was thinking of, what I was just saying right now, was the arrival of the axe from King Thorin, who delivered was it the red axe, or I'm trying to think what's the name of the axe in question oh yes, the red axe
Yeah, I
was
don't
sent to
remember. They
Durin
made a
by
big deal out of it, and I don't really remember.
Yeah, that's right. I had completely forgotten about the red axe. The arrival of the red axe to be given by Durin, and this is, of course, Thorin's way of saying, you have my blessing in your travels, because before, Thorin was reluctant to have Durin out in the world. But he says, you're right, you need to prove yourself and all this. So he sent the red axe so that he could do it. Then after that came the report from Winterstith, where we learned what happened. If you did not participate in the raid, then you go through the full version of listening. Now, this is the report of what happened there, and based on what Sanswinda said, it was a reasonable, accurate report of what happens in this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
And once that's finished, then Gandalf comes and says, oh, I finally have this story, and takes us through this instance where we learn about some of the details of what was happening in the Black Book, and about this elf that was traveling with the writer of the book that they were talking about.
So cool.
Yeah. Then we start to get messengers all over the place where we need to search to find a messenger, and that's right, we've got this messenger. I think eventually leads us, of course, to our fun friend Karazgar. You know how Karazgar is. Yeah, he wants to do destruction. So, of course, eventually he then comes out and brings out his second promise. Remember, he promised to arrive at Scarhold 3 times, and on the 3rd time there'll be no dwarves left alive in the place.
Uh-huh.
So he comes to the second time, and he decides to do the worst possible thing for himself, and that is to go into one of his ransom lectures right outside of Gandalf's room.
Yeah, he could have picked a better spot for that.
Where Gandalf was studying, no less, and had already sent somebody else away to not bother him.
Yes. Thus, Gandalf then comes out after being disturbed, and Karazgar then notices the Black Book and immediately demands it.
He offers to, give up his claim to all the lands if he can just have this book.
Yes, he wants that more than anything else. So, yes, if he's looking for his birth name, then he is convinced that book holds his birth name. But in this case, the first promise and the second promise did not go anywhere near as well for Karazgar as the first promise did, because Gandalf essentially then chased Karazgar out of there.
It was kind of great. It was like cranky, and Gandalf is not remotely impressed by the fact that Karazgar is Karazgar.
Yes.
But then by the same token, Karazgar is not really impressed by the fact that Gandalf is Gandalf either. So it was kind of really an interesting confrontation to watch. And you're just kind of sitting there waiting for the smackdown on one side or the other, because you know it's coming. And really, they just kind of say a few words, and then Karisgar runs off.
And then Gandalf asks you to pick the mask up, which is about 2 inches from his toe.
Yes.
Well, because wizards are jerks. This is what we've learned. I mean, that's
Stooping
what
to
we've
pick
learned
something
pretty
from
much,
the ground was beneath him.
right? We've
Literally
learned
beneath
throughout
him.
the entirety of the story that wizards are jerks. We learned especially that wizards are jerks while we were in Mordor dealing with Gandalf and all of his nonsense. So it doesn't, it's not remotely surprising that he can't be bothered to just bend over and get the stupid mask when it's right there.
It'd be nice
I'm
if he
pretty
were
sure
given the option to refuse.
I'm pretty sure I mouthed off at him at this point because I like to talk back to the wizards when we're reading the quest text. It's fun.
And that concluded Book 9, which brings us into Book 10. And when you configure that Book 9 all took place in the vicinity of Skarld, you'll think, well, then Book 10, or I should say, well, okay, or Chapter 10, I guess might be a better way of saying, that they are now heading into time to go into the Vales of Anduin because Gandalf is convinced that there'll be some sort of clue down in the Anduin, and we just need to go there to find out so we could study further. And he decides that the perfect place in which to go in the Vales is the Bjorninghuis. And it sounds like Grimbjorn follows his father's tradition of not being the most gracious host in the world.
Stupid bears.
Yes. And they, of course, ask us to go and collect some stuff in order to help to pay for our lodging so that we would have the food in which to eat and all that fun stuff. So we'll collect the daily food for there, and then we talk to Gandalf, and Gandalf says, maybe you should collect twice as much.
And I mouthed it off at him here, too. I said, what's wrong with your hands?
They're
I was
busy
already
holding his
aggravated for going to see the stupid bears.
Yeah. Then after that, we're asked to help the locals, the local Bjornings and the local woodmen. For example, we're asked to collect the tolls for them. I'm sure we're all happy about that. Things like collect the tolls for them, do a little bit more hunting and all that fun stuff.
They didn't charge me 10 gold, though. So, I mean, that's like 1 point in their favor versus the dwarf that I wanted information from. So.
Oh, yes, that dwarf. Yes. 10 gold, please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't get me started about that dwarf.
Yeah. Well, Jelruka.
Yeah.
Then after that, we talked to Gandalf after going all over the place in the Vales of Anduin. We speak to Gandalf again, and this time he starts to talk about the disaster of the Gladden Fields, what happened to Isildur. Because there are apparently some details of Isildur's fate that aren't known to the wise, which I suppose makes sense considering that everyone assumed that the ring completely disappeared, and we know how well that went. Eventually, he then takes us to the Isle of Flowers, where it's believed that Isildur died or something like that. And after that, we go back to Hultvis, and there's a hunter, and we learn that that he saw some sort of terrible apparition, and we must go and see it. And we head to a fort to look up this apparition, and it's our old fine friend, Karazgar, and he makes a request for us to get the Black Book. But there are several options in
Isn't it
this
like a
particular
request to
request.
talk at first?
Well, yeah,
Or
he
does
starts
he
by.
like ask for the Black Book immediately?
No, he doesn't ask for it immediately. He first tries to sweeten you, saying he'll give you information, but doesn't really give you any information. He's trying to make it look like that. He's just doing what you do. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And you can either talk to him, and then he'll say, "Could you just bring me the Black Book?" And you could say, then you could either you accept it, refuse it, whatever you want to do on that. But at some point, a couple of times you're given the option to fight him instead of continuing the talk. And I talked to him all the way through, and Terry Adwin said, "Oh, I can fight him?"
And I did, and it was awesome. Because there's so many times in the game that they pretend that they're going to let you have this choice, and then you take it and you find out that you don't actually get to have this choice. But if you can actually fight him, you can skip all of the talking. You don't have to listen to him, which was fantastic, because really my character did not want to listen to him at all. She just wanted to kick his butt.
So I've got to say, if you're going to take that option, you should probably know that you are prepared to fight and win. Because when my hunter fought him, she did okay. My minstrel got squished, and my runekeeper, who is very squishy, did not even attempt it. So I'm glad there were options besides fighting as well.
But I'm really, really, really super stoked that the fight option was there, and that they let you have the fight option. And he did actually really come close to kicking my butt, and fortunately the elves intervened. But I stood my ground and didn't die until the elves got there and chased him off. So
yes. So whether you talk to him and fight with him in words, or whether you fight him eventually, yes, the elves arrive, and Elrond and Glorfindel and Arwen and a host of other elves arrive to interrupt whatever is going on in that place at the time. And then we talk to a bunch of elves to finish off chapter 10.
Oh, and Elrond, I gotta say, Elrond is so funny because he goes, "I can't believe I'm seeing you out of my library. It's like I saw."
it's like I see you there all of the time, and it's like,
yeah, but he didn't mention the fact that I'm almost constantly on his little table.
Yeah, he also didn't mention the fact that we were rude enough to jump down instead of walk down the ramp.
Yeah.
We always jump down.
Maybe he was so busy looking at his books, though, he never actually noticed that that's what I was doing.
That's always fun. Well, you had to step on the table in order to look at him eye to eye.
Especially hobbits, yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I was short.
It'd be kind of cool if they put a fire pole.
That'd be really cool. I'm going to slide down.
Well, that's a possibility in there. So that concludes Book 9 and Book 10. But just before they announced all the stuff for Minas Morgul and all that stuff, they had another quick update where they added an interlude. And this interlude is not only a new section of the story, sort of a semi-chapter of...
Wait, did you mention Grimbjorn's reaction to them getting to the Bjorning house?
Oh, no, I didn't. I guess I didn't think it was important.
Well, no, we need to talk about this too, because
okay.
It was aggravating.
He was grumpy.
He's always grumpy.
Yeah.
All right, fine, yes. And of course, Grimbjorn.
And Gandalf being a jerk.
He's always one.
Yeah, but that's how the story actually ends before you get to the next part. Well, it doesn't end in the instance. You have to go back to Grimbjorn and introduce him to and say, "Sorry, I littered your lawn with elves," because they're littering the lawn now.
Yeah. He said, "Look at this. This is what happens when you let somebody inside."
That's true. They're
Yeah.
all over the place.
They
After you get to
are.
this point, they're just all over the place.
Right. And then Gandalf says, yes, of course. That's why I asked you to bring in double.
And it makes you want to smack the wizard.
Yes.
I mean, I still think that we were gathering double because Grimbjorn wanted that much for each of us, and Gandalf didn't want to pull his own weight. And then Gandalf
Yeah.
just tries to make it sound
Yeah,
like we were
yeah.
making way for elves. Because, really, we would have needed to gather like 6 times that much stuff for as many elves as we littered the lawn with.
I just want to point out that he keeps saying that we're welcome now that we've done all of these chores. We haven't actually stayed at the Bjorninghus for like 5 minutes.
That is true.
Because he keeps sending us somewhere else. We haven't actually been able to stay there yet.
If you did the side quests, you would have had time for a meal at least.
Yeah, but that's not staying there. That's just having a snack.
Well, yeah.
And now we've all signed up for the timeshare for some mysterious reason as well. We're each paying for that lodge, and we're not even able to save.
Right?
The Bjorninghus timeshare.
Plus, in order for us to be able to sit down and eat, we had to help all the animals first.
Right.
Oh, yes, right. We did have to help.
Oh, that was
setting
such
the
an
table.
aggravating instance.
Now, can I head into the interlude?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the interlude. Shades in the Swamp, where we have this little interlude where someone finds this shade in the swamp, or found by a couple of hunters, and we need to now chase down who this one is. Apparently, they believe it's some legendary Vagari the Wanderer. And we're looking, of course, we get sent all over the place in the Gladden Fields for this. The number of times we go into the 3 main points, into this crazy orc place, into this, into Sharky Slough and the Hobbit Hole and all that stuff. All the times
Right.
we go into those places is just crazy in there. So after going in to there, finding there, eventually we find a shade that disappears. We try to follow it, and eventually we run into the Gladden River Maiden. Because what is a river without its own maiden, right?
Yeah, as you do. You're hanging
Yeah.
around a river, you're going to run into the maiden sooner or later. Right.
Right. And then she says, oh, I don't trust you yet. Why don't you go pick some flowers, reminding me of my fellows who have since left?
Well, before she does that, though, she keeps disappearing, right? So you
Well,
have a little
yeah,
bit of a
she keeps
conversation with her,
doing
and
a
then she
very
disappears.
But when she finally stays put long enough for you to do it, then she sends you out to pick flowers on. So you wind up going to places where orcs have been. So that includes that orc place where I think we're sent about 3 or 4 times in this zone, and to another one where we got provisions at one point. And let's see, I think there was another flower we had to pick somewhere also, wasn't there? Oh, was that near the slough, or was that somewhere else? I can't remember. Anyway, we had to pick all these flowers. Then we return back to her, and she finally decides, all right, she will introduce us to her friend. So we follow her, and she brings us to her friend and introduces us to him, and he's someone who... he's a bit loopy on there, but we're trying to talk to him and all this stuff. And eventually, while we're talking to him, we get interrupted because the River Maiden is suddenly crying out in fear. We find out that Elrond and company have arrived.
Yeah, Gandalf, Elrond, and Glorfindel broke into the maiden's room.
Yes.
And apparently hurt her.
Yeah, and they bullied her to go and find this friend of hers, and they confront him. And they bring with them the staff of Annuminus, which of course they're carrying with them
Which, if
because,
you recall, Pippin used as a walking stick back in Rivendell.
yeah, he used it as a walking stick back in Rivendell. Yes,
Yes, that took hours to find for me too, because I was not good at navigating the map.
but now they
Painful
need it because
memory.
they need to give it to Aragorn when they get to Minas Tirith. So they're coming out, and he presents to them and says, "Who's, who's, you know,
What do I have? Or
yeah, what do I have in them?" And of course,
what do I have in my pocket? No, I'm sorry,
no, no,
wrong
no, no,
story.
no. What am I holding in my hand? And it is, yes, and it's the scepter of my father is his answer, because the shade is indeed Isildur.
Which was kind of fun.
Which is kind of fun. And that completes, well, we eventually do, Isildur then returns to the Flower Island, I think is where he goes.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
goes
to the
back.
Flower, I think it's there. Yeah, to some place in the Anduin, in the Vales of Anduin, in the Gland Fields in there. So we go to there. Yeah, I think it's on the Flower Island where we
And that's
talk
actually
to,
where you pick it up then in the upcoming new area.
right, because that's where you're going to have to go if when update 25 goes out,
Mhm.
is of course out into that location, because that's where we end that particular place. And this interlude was all there so that we could be prepped as an on-ramp for the next book, because if you want to do the early section of the Minas Morgul stuff, the stuff that's in the Second Age, you have to go through Isildur in order to do it.
Yeah, and up till now, you pretty much you had to do all of the Black Book, and this is actually
Right.
that's what they mean by on ramp, right? Like you
Right, it's
can
on-ramp,
now, if
yeah.
you choose to, just come in on this on ramp, and then you just pick it
Yeah,
up from
you
there.
come in on this on-ramp. Now, they do say that if you buy the Minas Morgul expansion, you do get the entire Black Book with it. But of course, if you're anxious to start the Minas Morgul content, then you could use the on-ramp in order to get there quickly.
Right.
And that's also be useful for some of your alts that don't feel like going through it again and quickly getting to Minas Morgul or something like that. Because, okay, do I want to do this again? Yeah. And that's the Black Book of Mordor there. So let's then head out in to discuss other aspects of this back, because that was just the Black Book, but of course we do have the entire zone to discuss, and we'll begin with the landscape. What do you say about the landscape?
I enjoyed all of it. I thought it was really well done. Thank heavens there weren't so many snag trees, roots to trip over as we've had in some of the other
Yeah.
areas. And I like the fact the thing that was kind of, I mean, this isn't about the questing, it's more about the geography. The thing that was
Yeah.
cool to me is it connects areas. If you're in the southern part, you can actually go into Lothlorien. If you're in the northern part, you actually end up in the Misty Mountains. Oh, and also Eregion. If you go over to Gladdenmere, over by the newer area where where the new instances, you actually end up in Eregion. So it was kind of cool. This was kind of like the missing puzzle piece, which was, so it was neat that
Yeah,
it's
connections are
connected
great.
stuff. Yeah.
Finally being able to get through there, and I believe Corey Olsen took advantage of that.
He did, yeah. Wigan ran all the way to the Orning House, I think, didn't he? Or
No, he went to the, I think he went to the Elf King's house, didn't
he went through there. I thought he ran because they ran him through High Pass to get into the Vales.
Yeah, to the Vales, but
Yeah.
after he stopped but he went beyond the Bjorninghus and into the.
Oh, he did? Okay, yeah.
Yes, into Belagoth.
Right, he did do that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. That was actually the first time I'd seen that when he ran that was, they ran him through the high pass, and then he ended up right on the other end of Goblin Town, the other doorway, which is kind of cool. I was kind of bummed though you couldn't go into Goblin Town like like the Goblin Town we know from the Misty Mountains. That's kind of a bummer, but that's a minor thing. Yeah. Of course, now I have how in like Minas Tirith area it was like, oh, is this your first time in Minas Tirith? Shame you couldn't see it in better days. The one I have for the Vales is, have you killed goblins today? It's like, yes, I have killed goblins today. Jeez.
Besides which, sometimes I just came back from killing goblins for your quest.
With you.
Or
I
with
was
you.
with you, and I killed goblins.
Yes, I have killed many goblins today. Have you?
Yeah.
Could you say the same? Yeah.
And some of them sound a little bit like the Swedish chef from the Muppets.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I'm not complaining about that. It's
That's
just
not a bad thing, though.
no, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I
Yeah.
thought the whole thing was kind of interesting. The story of Old Mad Ub.
Okay. Yeah, but
was
hold on.
interesting.
We're talking about landscape right
sorry,
now.
landscape.
Let's
Sorry.
take care of the landscape, then we can go to
I'm
the
sorry.
quest.
I'm sorry.
Let's say get any more opinions on the landscape. Well, of course, the one thing about the landscape that can get annoying, of course, is that we are talking about the Gladden Fields, which is this big, huge swamp.
Taller characters didn't have much trouble with it. My high elf didn't have much trouble, like, war-steeding back to a specific instance from the res circle across the swamp. However, my poor hobbits, every time they try to war-steed anywhere, they end up dismounted because of the swamp. I like the way it looks. I appreciate that it's traversable by a tall person without dismounting. But my poor little hobbit,
Plus, I
is
turn
not
around,
at all persuaded it was a nice swamp.
If I was with Sans Minstrel, I'd be like walking maybe like waist high on my woman, and I'd turn around and I'd see like just basically the head and the hat with the feather, above water.
Yeah, pretty much. And then like 2 seconds later, I'd be swimming and she'd be way in front of me, and yeah.
Sans, what'd be cool is if they introduced an option where you could choose to have your war steed either scale to the Hobbit or scale to a human, and then you could be riding the absolutely giant.
The giant horse. There you go.
Yeah,
and then
I
they
think
could
in
like
areas
have
like
a saddle
that,
with a little.
I should have like this little tiny saddle on top of a tall horse. I like that idea.
Well, I think that would be way more realistic too, honestly.
I mean, really, I would not take a little pony out there and try to war-steed across it. If I were, like, at the Bjorning place, like, trying to buy passage on a horse, I would totally get a horse. I mean, they could just give me, like, a Mumak to ride, too, or
there you go.
horses know how to swim.
Or a giant shrew.
Yeah, a giant shrew might have been tall enough if they'd let me ride a giant shrew. Yeah. I'd still prefer to ride a Mumak.
Mumak.
I mean, I'm even a hunter. I can shoot from the top of the Mumak, and, like, the mobs on the landscape could have to worry about the little circles on the ground. I like this plan.
Well, I felt strongly for a long time that they should introduce Mumaks as the base for any kin house you might want to.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We will have the new Haradream housing areas. Mumaks. I think that covers most of what we had in there because it's very good landscape, annoying in the swamp, but that's
I like how the landscape fit
realistic.
each area, though.
Yeah, how the landscape did fit the areas, yes.
I just like the detail that went into it, with things like the gigantic bees.
Those bees are terrifying.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but they are.
Like, even with the beehives that were, like, dripping off of things, I did not expect that. I jumped in shock when I saw the bees. It was pretty awesome.
I actually saw a real-life photo of a beehive that looked just like that. I was amazed.
Now, were the
I mean,
bees
for some
that
reason,
size though?
bees weren't that size, but the
Oh,
hives
phew.
were. The ones that are on the rafters of the,
Yeah,
of
no,
the
I can
house.
totally see a
Yeah,
beehive that size.
yeah.
But
No,
I
the
was
bees weren't that
expecting like
size.
bees the size of my hobbit's hand, maybe. Not like bees
Right.
the size of my hobbit.
Well, speaking of which,
Oh.
you could ride a bee. That could be a steed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this
That would
the
be an
hobbit should
awesome
be able to
steed.
ride across the swamp. A bee.
Oh my goodness, bee bounders! Come on,
Bee bounders.
Bee
Yes.
bounders.
They couldn't go very high, but they could totally not have to swim. I like this plan.
All right. Yes. And that's of course a reference to some of the rewards that you have in there, where you can get these cosmetic pet bees that are about the size of a hobbit.
They are. They are. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
and the
My
models are
hobbit is
really nice
looking
looking
forward
too.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
my Bjorning Winnie the Pooh has a blue bee named Christopher Robin. You can get a blue one, which I don't know why blue. That was weird, but it's a big bee too.
the blue carpenter bee.
Yeah, the blue. Big
Cinder
bee.
says one of those.
Yeah.
All right, now let's go into the questing areas. And I think
Oh, I have no opinion. Well, it was fun, yeah, because you had. It's really variable. I really enjoyed it. You kind of had the Goblin Town thing, and there's a whole story around that where there's like a power play between two factions that the Bjornings kind of have you help them with, and then you've got there's a whole bunch of orcs in a couple of spots, but not in the near the main hub, Holtfis. I don't know, and getting the Bjornings from their farms to run, come into town, and it was just a lot of, and then we had the spider guys again. Oh, and then also Radagast, doing stuff at Rustgoble, which for me was really fun. I mean, I really enjoyed doing the stuff for Radagast. And then toward the end, you encounter an elf. I have to say, I don't hate elves as much as Terry does, but this elf is definitely a snooty elf, Baradol, who asks you. She has really got an attitude. Yeah, I mean,
you mean the Huskarl for Arwen?
Yeah, the one that wants you to help out, a favor for Arwen, and she's really got an attitude. I wanted to smack her a couple of times, but. And then that, forwards the story. Oh, the other thing that I enjoy is tie-ins to The Hobbit. And then I mentioned the old Mad Ub story, which is this sort of legend. It's like this boogeyman that parents scare their children with. And you go, there's a couple of villages, I think, we go around and talk to folks about it. And it turns out then you find out in a instance that it's actually Gollum. That Gollum had spent time in the Vales, and these people had encountered, and that's where this legend of Old Mad Ub comes from, which was really interesting.
Yeah,
so.
They do all give the alternate name that's given in the Lord of the Rings for Gollum during that time period.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah. Well, I really like that, and then you do get tie-ins. You get another tracking of the Hobbit journey through this area, which I like. It's so funny that we've gone through all the Lord of the Rings stuff, and now we're in areas between Northern Mirkwood and here that we're doing Hobbit stuff, which is kind of interesting. But that was kind of cool too.
Yes, I have a feeling that I can imagine Terry Adwin is thinking, let's see, Bjornings, elves, bears, elves, and wizards. That sounds like a wonderful combination for you, right?
Yeah, it's funny because Trish said she really liked doing stuff for Radagast, and I'm thinking, of course you did. I really hated doing stuff for Radagast.
I'm sure you did.
I was so annoyed by doing stuff for Radagast. I can't even tell you because Trish probably doesn't listen to the podcast anymore now that she's not on it. But I've pretty much, like, every week that we ended up doing stuff for Radagast, I was on the podcast complaining about the stuff we had to do for Radagast. Because he's really, I actually find Radagast to be more annoying than Gandalf, and Gandalf irritates the crap out of me on a regular basis. Like, every time I have to interact with Gandalf, I want to smack him. But yeah,
you probably wanted to throw Radagast right into the little pond that's right by his house.
Oh my god! Well, Radagast makes the crucial mistake of telling you that he is responsible for those spider people.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
And I'm like, you did what?
Yeah. Yeah. He cops to the fact that he made an error, and when he did the Bjornings, he also let these guys become spider people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? And you're only just now thinking that maybe you should fix it? What is wrong with you?
Right? Like you should overrun your whole
You should have
place.
never let this happen in the first place. You definitely should have fixed it before now. Instead, he waits until he gets chased out of his house by these people. And then he doesn't even fight to bring his own house back. He brings us to do it, cannon fodder.
Yeah, I have no defense of that at all. I will admit that he was, yeah, kind of out of line. And he just stands in one spot the whole time, right? While you're running around like a crazy
He
person.
doesn't do anything. So
I
mean,
did something at
least-
the very end, but it was too little too late. Like, seriously.
At least back in Garthagar when he actually did stuff, in that
he
instance
was
that you go
talking to the
into
little
with the
animal
epic.
friend.
Yeah, and he actually,
I just did that again
got rid of
recently,
Ivar
so-
and stuff.
Well, he talked smack to Ivar, and Ivar ran away. I don't know that he necessarily really did anything, but he talked to his animal friends. And
Well, he does send the bears in, to kill the spider guys. But you're right, too little, too late,
but,
right?
I mean, you're there fighting, and I'm like, anytime now, Radagast. Really, anytime you want to pitch in here, are you going to help me at all here, Radagast? Yeah. So
I'm assuming that he is doing some sort of spell to weaken the foes so that you're able to more handily fight
I
them.
hope so.
yeah, no.
But see, I have a soft spot for Radagast from the books, so that's kind of why I'm willing to give him
So aggravated. Yeah, so I didn't actually finish the Veils questing. I think where did we give up? We gave up around Vegvar, wasn't it?
No, actually, we did Hultfis.
No, we did Holdfist.
Yeah,
and then I
Hultfis is after Vegvar.
Yeah,
Okay,
didn't
so
you
we
give up
did
when you
Holdfist.
encountered the elf
You
that wanted
gave
you to
up
help
when you
our...
encountered Arwen's elves.
No, because I'm pretty sure that we just wanted to focus on the Black Book because we didn't have lots of time because we knew the new update was coming up, and that was right around the time we finished Holdfist.
It was actually we did the next zone after Hultfis. We did about half of that because that's where
I know what it was because we ran
that's
into
where we
the
get
stuff.
taken by the spiders because that's where the
Right,
spider thing leads to
right.
Radagast's place.
Well,
it's after
yeah,
Radagast where
and-
you quit.
Well, yeah, because Radagast. That's exactly why I quit. I was like, okay, I'm done with the rest of the Veils. Let's just finish out the Black Book.
That plus the release of the expansion was rapidly coming.
Yeah, but really, I was done with the Veils because Radagast.
All right.
So aggravating.
Just be happy then. You'll be happy then, at least in the second age area where no Gandalf and Radagast to worry about.
Yay!
And it's like back to Mordor. I'm sure this is going to make you so happy to be away from lots of Bjornings and elves. I mean, there'll still be elves, but not like this. Not
Yeah,
in
there'll
this
be too many
concentration.
elves in the area, of course.
Terry, if you
Yeah.
ever want a group, I'm willing to bring my Bjorning or my elf.
She could be
I
a
will-
guest on Bears Night, right?
I will group with elves. I want nothing whatsoever to do with bears.
Oh, you should
Like-
come to Bear Buddies then.
Oh,
Terry,
Bear
you
Buddies is a riot.
Like I went
yeah,
with
go
girls
on with
to go do the Durance Day thing, and Maven showed up on Winnie the Pooh, and I was done. Like, okay, I gotta go. Of course, I was sick that week, so.
Yeah.
But,
No, Bear Buddies is really fun because it's like 4 or 5 of us, 6 of us, all bears.
yeah, no.
It's it's great.
Oh, there's something magical about being in bear form, surrounding somebody, and just beating six
I-
bears, just beating.
I'm really seriously at some point gonna end up deleting my Bjorning. You guys realize this?
Any other comments about the quest?
Oh, I really like that one quest line that got Calandrian killed.
Thanks.
Well, it's a cool quest line. It was sad that Calandrian died, but that way Sans will know which one it was because I don't know the name of the quest line. But it's the one in that little hobbity area where you find the random hobbit hole.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like that one because I thought it was kind of fun to
Oh
go
yes.
through the hobbit hole.
Because at first, before, when I was checking out the place when it was Bales of Wandering was on Bulwer and all this stuff, whenever I checked or anything like this, I could not find any signs of a hobbit hole anywhere. So it wasn't until I was about halfway through doing the appropriate section of the Bales of Wandering where I finally found, because I was almost thinking, don't tell me they did this entire zone without a hobbit hole somewhere. Since, of
Well, it
course,
was a really nice hobbit hole too, as far as hobbit holes
yeah,
go.
yeah, it was about a few centuries ago.
Right?
It
Yeah,
was pretty cool.
that was actually one of the cooler
It was
bits
pretty
of that
big.
area.
That was a big.
It was a massive hobbit hole.
Well,
It was
yeah,
like
So,
yeah.
it was probably about equal to Bag End, honestly, back
Or
in the
I
day.
was going to say
so
Buckland. You know what is
Buckland?
the?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the what is it? Brandy Buck Hall.
yeah.
Because
so
some
I
of the
was.
larger
Go ahead.
some of the larger families do have multi-family dwellings in there,
Right,
and I suspect
exactly.
that might have been even more common back in the Anduin days, perhaps.
That's true.
Well, and what I was thinking of was that it tied really nicely back in because we find out that when what's his face finds the ring, he was still living with his family and they were very hobbit-like, and so I thought it was kind of a cool tie-in to that.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe that even was where Schmiegel and Deagle lived.
That's true.
Always a possibility. Anything else anyone has to say about quests? All right. How about rewards?
Eh.
I suppose. Any cosmetics you
did get
particularly liked?
the coolest hat ever because so the hunter gets as part of the hunter quest thingy, the level 15 hunter quest reward. The hunter gets this medium armor helmet that looks like a bear head, like a little teddy bear. And as part of the quest rewards in the new area, I got the heavy armor version of that, and it was amazing. And I haven't used
Yeah,
it in
it's
an
really
outfit yet, but
cool.
I'm
Yep,
totally
that's a
going
cool
to.
one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm really excited for my guardian to be able to get it because she already has a little costume. I think it'd be cool to have one that's actually like an armored hat rather than just the cosmetic version.
Yeah.
I will say though that my coolest reward in that entire zone was when I finally finished all the pages and got that bookshelf.
I still need
I
to
haven't
do
even done that yet. Oh my
I
gosh.
need
Yeah, I
that
look forward to that
bookshelf.
day.
Yeah, I never got the one in Mordor because it requires you to do certain instances. But yeah, on Crick Hollow at least, I think I've got that.
You're missing the abyss, right?
Yeah, I'm missing the abyss.
So what I'm hearing is we need another story raid.
Well, we need a page run.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a page run. And page run for the abyss. At least that'll help me on Landrival. It won't help me on Crick Hollow, but at least on Landrival it'll help me on that matter. And Crick Hollow, I think, is where I have the nicer house anyway. So it would be nice if I can have it not as messy with books all over the place.
You just need a good desk to set them all on, and then everyone will think you're a scholar.
I think I have a table where I have all the Mordor ones stacked currently. I think I have about 5 or 6 stacked up in there. I think I've used up all of my slots that are within range of that table.
Well, Pine Leaf, I think your Palantir has a Kindle app. You just digitize the whole thing.
There's an app for that.
There's an there's an app to access all those books. That would be nice. And the
And an
Palantir,
Audible account too. So it's like what do they call Whisper Sync, right? So you have the Audible version of it as well.
That would be perfect for that, especially considering that
Or
you
it
do
comes
get both
equipped
the
with the
text
audio.
version and a voice version.
Right, there you go.
And of course, the end reward for everything in there is one of those giant bees, the honeybee.
That's like
The
the
actual
reward for
yellow
all
version.
of the deeds. Like all of the deeds, isn't it?
All, yeah, doing all of the deeds, doing the entire Veils of and on Crick Hollow, I actually managed to get that bee.
Though I've got to say,
Ah,
when I was doing the killing, when I was killing things and I looked at the deeds, I was impressed with the deeds. So,
Yes, then let's head into deeds. What do you think about the deeds that we had to do in this zone compared to some other zones?
I mean, they were pretty normal.
Not kill 200, then kill 400 more.
yeah, they
Like-
didn't do that to us, did they?
They didn't. They were
like-
really nice.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at it, I was like, I might actually finish these. I haven't yet, but I might.
You've got 3 days left? 2 days left?
I've got a lot of time left. Pinely Floater's going to be around for a long time.
All right.
If
that's how that
You
works-
said get it done. You didn't say get it done before the release of Minas Morgul.
Yeah, that's
Right.
probably not going to happen. I mean, at one point I thought it might because I didn't know, like, how long I'd be doing things. But I think, like, they're totally doable. I just haven't, I've done some of them. I just haven't done all of them. Because I think I have my Orc Slayer Advanced done. And I think my Beast and Insect Slayer Advanced is done. So I'm on my way.
Okay.
Yeah, Glordio got them all done. I think it was probably one of the few areas I've been in where I actually did them all. Got my yellow bee. I don't know why, for some reason, I was turned into a completionist all of a sudden, but
But after I want to say the Minas Tirith deeds, I was very, very happy to see the Vales deeds. So
yeah, true.
I mean, after they were done, the Minas Tirith deeds weren't bad. But looking at that list and trying to do that list, I mean, like looking back now from the character who did it, I'm like, oh yeah, it was worth doing once. But the Vales deeds will probably get done on multiple characters without
Right.
feeling like you are hitting your head against a brick wall continuously.
This is your first time in Minas Tirith.
Shame, we're gonna see it in better
In
days.
better
I'm
days.
still running those dailies.
I know, me too.
Oh man.
Oh boy. That takes care of deeds then, quests, landscape, rewards. How about a rating for this zone then? Let's start with Sans Winda.
Did you say rating as in like
No,
doing the
rating.
raid?
One to
Or-
between 1 to 10.
From A
1
to
to 10
F.
rating. Or
A
A
to
to F.
A to
A to F. A minus.
A minus, all right.
And I don't know that it was their fault. Like, it might not have been anything to do with the area. It might have had to do with the state of my roomkeeper. But she's reasonably well geared now, and I was really excited that she wasn't super squishy. And then there was that solo instance, and it was mandatory. You could only take one person in, and she got squished twice trying to complete it. But it's still in the A zone because the instance didn't make her restart from the beginning every time, which I really, really, really appreciate that she could war steed back across the field and get back in and pick up where she left off. That was very helpful because I don't think I would have finished the instance otherwise. And I really enjoyed the stories. I am very much looking forward to continuing to learn more about the Black Book story and to see the other stories that unfold. and the landscape was awesome, even if I had to swim a lot. And yeah, I'm excited for the next area, and I really like what they did because I really like what they did with this area. So,
Cinders, did you get a chance to actually do any stuff in there, or because I know in the character I was working with you today, you didn't get that far, but did you finish it in any other characters?
Cinderina did finish it. She finished the Black Book. She hasn't finished all of the other stuff, like most areas. Anyhow, I really enjoyed it. After being in Mordor, anything that's not really dark is a relief. So I'm not sure how I'm feeling about Minas Morgul coming up. But I do really like the Vales of Anduin, and I enjoyed the scenery and I enjoyed the quest lines. I would give it an A because I think it's pretty good. Or if we're doing the Common Core grading, it would be a 3. But
I guess I don't know the Common Core
oh,
rating.
standards based grading is a 0 to 4 scale, with 4 being like above and beyond where it should be, and 3 being like, yeah, this feels really good, like you're on target, this is where it should be, and then 0 is like,
okay, I guess because when I think of a 3, I think of a 3 as a B because that's how it was at my university.
A 3 would be an A.
Okay.
On that scale.
Okay, on that scale. So therefore, 4 is above A rather than the standard college rating of A. Then.
Yeah, so a 4 would be like an A plus.
All right. So therefore, Cinders is in an A, and then Sands is an A minus. Now, how about Terry Adwin?
I gotta admit, I'm giving it a solid B. I liked the story. I liked the landscape, but there wasn't lots. And in fact, we only really got one chapter of the Black Book that was in the Vales, because the whole first chapter of the Black Book that we got was still in Scarhold.
Yeah.
So we only got one chapter of the Black Book, and then of course we got the interlude. But it felt like a mini update, like Mirkwood as compared to Moria being like an expansion. I mean, it wasn't an expansion; it was just an update. But also, there were way too many elves and wizards and bears. And I spent way too much time being extremely aggravated at like almost every NPC that I talked to. Like it was such a contrast for me coming out of the Grey Mountains, because I loved being with the dwarves. The dwarves were great. Even the Jaruka, who were jerks, I was okay with the fact that, because they were like consistent about being jerks, and they kind of had reasons for being jerks. And even though they were jerks, the Longbeards still treated them the way the Longbeards treat most people, which is, we all drink from the same beer keg, so you guys are fine by us as long as you don't actually start stuff. The dwarves are just such laid back people. They really are. And they're way less needy. Like, everybody was so freaking needy. The fact that we had to pick up the mask from Gandalf's toes, it's like, really? You can't do anything to yourself? So yeah, for me it's a solid B. I wish I could have given it a higher grade, but there just wasn't lots there. I actually really wanted, I'd have been happier if we'd gotten more Black Book stuff, to be perfectly honest. If we had gotten a second Black Book instance, it would have pushed it up to an A, but just having that one, we still have more questions than answers, and it's driving me nuts.
We are hoping that we will get some real answers during the Minas Morgul update.
Man, I hope so.
Maven.
Well, see, now I'm going to probably be in this is going to demonstrate how everybody's got to make their own decisions, because I'm probably the opposite of Terry. I actually found it, I giving it an A, because I found it actually there was quite a lot to do, and it was variable. It was like, it was, like, of course, Northern Mirkwood versus Dalelands. I mean, that there was a lot of variety there. But if you just looked at like the Felagoth area, it was kind of monotonous and boring, and I don't know. I didn't really enjoy that part. In contrast, this was very varied. You had a lot of variation, all the way from like, going after the Goblin King to taking a pig to look for truffles. I mean, it was like, and you were by the side of the Anduin River, Gladden Fields. I mean, I really enjoyed it a lot. I think another reason I'm probably giving it an A is because I have peeked into Minas Morgul, and I think I'll probably be coming back to the Vales just to get a break ever so often, because it's pretty dark in the new area. So, I'm anticipating sort of coming back to visit just to get a little bit of sunlight and greenery around me from time to time. But I really did enjoy it. Of course, and I don't have the antipathy for bears and elves Terry does, so that helps.
There is
So,
and needy people in general.
I needy people in general. Yeah, I mean, I kind of get annoyed, but it's like, I got broken in by
NPCs are supposed to be needy, but
I got broken in by the Rangers. What can I tell you?
I mean, NPCs are supposed to be needy, but these were egregiously needy.
Yeah, they were pretty bad. It was really funny. The guys from Ploy were reminiscing about Halloween's past, and they were reminiscing about how they played hide and seek in LOTRO. One of the guys said that he put on his Rangers outfit and just went and stood with the Rangers in Estelden, and nobody could find him. And I said, well, what you should have done was laid down by a fire, and for sure nobody would find you.
Or sit there by the fire.
Yeah, just sit by the fire. Yeah, or lean against. Well, I guess you can't lean. There's no unless you lets you lean against a wall, but you can lay by a fire for sure. Anyway, so this I'm sort of offsetting Terry's B with an A. So,
All right. Krister.
Yeah, I'm easy. I gave it an A. I really liked what they've been doing with all the content that's followed, basically Mordor, and I really, in terms of the raid itself, the 12-man, I love it. It's challenging. It's got a lot of moving parts to it. It's hard. It's humbling. It's humiliating. But you get better and better at every turn. But it's just I like what I've seen with this one, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right, you're talking about a raid. What raid was that?
Wasn't oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were
the Anvil.
Yeah.
You talking about the Anvil?
Anvil was the previous update.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How about the 6-man? That was great, wasn't it, Krister?
It tells you to go back and play the Anvil during this update.
Okay,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, they do say that during the course.
I got that. I apologize. I got that.
Yeah, that's because Anvil, I think, was released between the
between
the two updates. Yeah.
So it's basically this update for our review purposes. I mean, did we review the Anvil?
No, I don't think.
How many of us have done the Anvil? 2? 3?
I haven't finished it. I kept dying on the way out, so I just was like, okay, forget it.
I have finished it.
All right.
I think Krister's finished it, but I can't.
Oh yeah, Krister's finished it a bunch of times, I'm sure.
Yeah, not on T2 though. We haven't finished it on challenge yet. But
oh well, gosh.
Either. But I finished it on tier 1.
He says it like finishing on tier 1's easy. It's not easy.
I want to talk about another potential mount.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Great one at the end.
At the end. Yeah. Well, actually, that could be a whole the whole raid could ride that dragon.
That would be epic to have a whole raid.
A dragon mount?
Yeah.
Instead of a hunter port, you could have a dragon mount that the hunter or anybody could use to transport people.
Krister dreams of riding dragons. I mean, Krasgar rides a dragon. Why can't we ride dragons?
Exactly.
Right?
Look, is there a Pern MMO yet?
Or a Game of Thrones game, right? I don't know. Did she ever? I don't know. I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't know if she rode dragons or not.
Oh, she did, and those
Did she?
dragons were glorious.
Oh, okay.
Then that leaves it to me. And I will say anything that goes and explores Hobbit lore. That's yeah, that's right. So it goes into Hobbit lore. It goes into some interesting backstories in there. It fills in some of the history of the ring and ties all that in. So I'm going to give it an A.
Cool.
And that then is our review for the Veils of Anduin. Anything anyone wishes to say to part with before we continue?
That was a long 10 minutes, but you know,
That was a
sorry.
long 10 minutes.
Sorry, you guys who came back after 10 minutes.
Black Book.
Oh, okay.
Just for
Yeah,
the
Okay.
book.
I figure that anyone who wasn't interested in hearing the review at all would have bailed out of the show completely at that
That's
point.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
Because,
Good point.
because what we have next is the week in LOTRO, and Terry Edwin, what were you up to?
I actually, for once, had a busy weekend game. So, since we bailed on finishing out Veils questing, because I actually asked the question, is this worth doing, or is it just going to aggravate me further? Because I didn't have a great week in other areas. And Pilot and Sands both said it was probably going to aggravate me further. So we went back to Axley and Friends, who we had left in Eregion. They're in Volume 3, playing with Rangers.
Technically, that's where they were supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Axley and Friends headed to Enedwythe. We actually made the trip from Akkad, Eregion, all the way down to I actually know the path. There's a path that actually leads you all the way down, and it fords the river, so you don't have to swim, and you don't find yourself jumping off of cliffs and stuff. There's actually a road that goes that way.
I just never knew about it. Yes.
Discovered that we apparently lost some of the rangers on the way, although they're not technically rangers anymore. They're Grey Company guys now. So we went on a couple of rescue missions, and that was fun. Dug up some hidden cache thingies, which was also
what?
It was also fun, sort of fun, and we killed all of the things because Axley and Friends is 2 dwarf champions and a hobbit hunter, so lots of things die really fast. Sarissa, my burglar, I talked about the burglar earlier, finished up in the Broadacres for now because she's going to have to come back. But she's currently rooting out corruptions in the Stone Deans. Really loving being a burglar in Rohan because I always forget how much I love to be a higher level burglar until I am a higher level burglar. And then it's like, you want me to go on a scouting mission and I don't actually have to kill anything. I just have to look at some things. Okay. And then you creep around the town and you kill the one guy who's standing by the chest because, of course, you got your track treasure turned on, which tells you where all of the chests and backpacks and bodies and things are. And so you kill that one guy and scout all of the locations, and you come back and say, ta-da! And then they want you to go in and kill things, which never turns out well for anybody, although nobody died who wasn't supposed to, including me. So yay for that. So my burglar did better in Torsbury than my Challenge Minnie did in Torsbury. Challenge Minnie actually had to quit side questing in Rohan because she could not finish Torsbury on level, and ended up just following the epic along and finishing up that way. I should take her back and finish that actually. But yeah, being a burglar in Rohan is awesome because when I'm not creeping around in stealth, I'm out on the Warsteed. disguised as an orc, and it's totally a great disguise. Or it's great enough to fool all of the stupid orcs and goblins on the landscape anyway. They don't know any better. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's a really terrible disguise, but it works.
What I thought was really funny was when I was in some place in Fangorn, and the horns that you would think would be 10 times as hostile to an
orc? Yeah,
to an orc ignore you.
Nope, you're totally fine. Come back here as a human, we will kick your butt. But orcs totally, yeah, I never really get that either, because you would think that the landscape critters like the bucks and things would be hostile to you regardless of what shape you happen to be wearing. But you put on that orc disguise, man, and it doesn't matter. Nothing's gonna try and kill you.
It must really be a tree disguise that you're in when you're in the Fangorn.
It's something. And then I was over on Well Dressed Killing Machine. Speaking of Well Dressed Killing Machines, so he finished Volume 1, Book 2, and then decided belatedly, I don't know why I decided belatedly to start working on World Renowned. I wanted the return to Oscar Ruth, basically, is what happened. So his crafting is he's the cook. So I did a whole bunch of crafting, and I made so many onion soups, and now he's kindred with the Eagle. So I have my return to Oscar Ruth, and I had got the steed, and I'm still doing more crafting so that he's got food for his level so that he can go play around in the North Downs, which is actually where he's headed, to Esteldine, when he's finished with this last round of crafting. So that was my week. Cinders, how was yours?
Relatively uneventful until Thursday night. So on Thursday night, I got home from all the stuff that I had going on, finally, and they were getting killed repeatedly in Quetzalcoatl, and I was like, oh, what are you guys up to? And so I was like, oh, we're doing Quetzalcoatl, and we have like 5 people and we need 6. I was like, okay, can I come? And they're like, yeah, sure, you can come. So I grabbed my Lore Master, because she's 120, and discovered the place, and went in, and then had to go out and get the quest, and then go back in. And this whole time, I'm trying out Yellow Line Lore Master, because Finior was telling me that that's all that he runs now, and he helped me set up my rotations and everything, so that I could do this, right? Because it's really effective, and I tried it. He's like, yeah, I do it in rating, I do it on landscape, it's amazing. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be like the best at this that I can possibly be. So I'm in there trying to use my newfound knowledge, right? And I'm just hitting all my keys, because I'm a key smasher. So if it's not on my skill bar, I have to click. But I don't cover, I just kind of click. So this whole time I'm like, yes, if I do Beacon of Hope, it'll splash on everything, morale, it'll be great. If they're close to the person. So I was targeting through Krister the entire time. And thinking that I was doing this wonderful morale splashing, right? Because I was clicking this green button that looks like this wonderful rainbow, right? And it's green, and green and morale go together. I'm like, yes, I've got this. We died, and we died, and we died gloriously, and we died ingloriously. And then finally we were like, you know what? We all got to go to bed. It's not a big deal. Okay. So we quit doing it. And then on Friday night, I did Friday Night Fights with Mythgard, and I did the same thing, only this time I was targeting through Pineleaf. And it worked great for the spider one, or for Spiderwing. Actually, I think I switched to Redline for Spiderwing, because I was like, I want to kill all the things, because, that multiple lightning strike is just amazing. So we did that for Spiderwing, and then we went to do Thievery and Mischief, and we got to the boss fight, and I was like, I'm going to do this in Yellow Light. It's so awesome. I'm going to be great. So I get in there, and I did the exact same thing again. And Pineleaf, and only this time I'm targeting through Pineleaf. Trying to keep stun immunity on him so he wouldn't get knocked out. And every time it comes off cooldown, I'm clicking this green button. Every time it's off cooldown, I'm going to heal Pineleaf. This is going to be great. He's not ever going to feel this even. We get all done, and Pineleaf is like, oh, I had to just keep self-healing and self-healing. I was like, what are you doing insulting my healing abilities? And then I'm sitting here, hovering over skills. I felt so bad. But it was also really, really funny, because I realized that instead of sharing morale, I had been sharing power. Nights and then I was doing this fabulous job sharing morale and just being epic, right? And
So everybody had plenty of power.
Everybody had all the power they could possibly need. It did not help with morale though. So my apologies to Krista and Pineleaf and anybody else who was on any of those raids. It was really and thankfully none of them mind too much as people learn and make mistakes. But I felt really like ashamed of my lore master.
Hey, I just want to add, you didn't make a mistake. You didn't make a mistake. You were playing the classic lore master.
That's right.
Because the classic lore master supplied power. So you were
That
playing
used
an
to be the
homage to
whole
that.
reason to have a lore master in the party was to share the power. That was the one skill as a lore master that they never used.
Yeah, there was no shortage of power for those 2 nights. And then today I spent a little bit of time running with Pineleaf and Sands, trying to get my Guardian through the newest content so that I am ready for the real new content on Tuesday. And so we were slamming through the Black Book and ended up sitting in Scarhold and trying to get some rep with these dwarves so that I can have some wonderful gear going into the 120 area, because she also ended up missing a lot of things because of how she leveled, although she was not an Aria character. Yeah. All right. That was pretty much my week in LOTRO.
Well, I'll pick up there. I finished the Black Book of Mordor on my minstrel, Amalora, and so she's now ready for the new expansion, and she got to practice some healing. She's a minstrel, and she was running in blue line, so she was healing. She was the one who was actually supposed to be healing on Thursday night with Kidzul Kala when Cinders joined. So Cinders doesn't need to feel too bad at all about that. It was going
By
good
the way,
too.
I have to say that during the Black Book of Mordor completion, Amalora channeled the Yellow Hobbit, because at one point she fell partially off the cliff, and to get back up, she like aggroed all the things, and so she comes running at us, this itty bitty hobbit, with like every possible kind of mob, right?
You know,
Glooms and spirits, and
it's
hilarious.
actually better than that, Maven. So I'm on my war steed, hugging the edge of the cliff away from the part that falls off, like I'm hugging the wall of the cliff. And my war steed suddenly decides that no, it actually was like 20 paces back and off the edge of the cliff.
Oh.
And as it flings me backwards and off the cliff, I pick up like 3 mobs who are really mad at me. I try to get back up, but of course I can't go up the same way that I went down. So I have to kind of detour around, and as I'm detouring around, I'm just trying to stay mounted and not go into the water. So I pick up like 4 more mobs, and then I hit the path, and there's 2 more mobs standing right there, and I was like, hey guys, I've got company coming in.
And the thing that was hilarious is she said it really calmly, like, I'm bringing things with me. I mean, it was like this really calm voice, and we look up, and there's just like this stream of mobs behind the hobbit.
Well, you know, if she sounded panicked, y'all might have been worried, and you wouldn't have been really so shocked that what arrived.
So funny. It was so funny.
But yeah,
anyway,
I was more
go ahead.
like miffed with the setback than I was like panicked about it, because I was totally riding to a guardian, and I knew that he just
That's true.
They weren't gonna hit me too long. If I could get to him, I could probably turn around and unleash all my AoEs on them and teach them a lesson for picking on me. But yeah, no, I healed for Kidzul Kala after being on my Runekeeper trying to single target DPS, which was not going so well. So I switched over to my Minstrel when Cinders got there. And it actually was going pretty good until we got to the second tentacle fight? Or was it the first tentacle fight that time?
I think it was the second one, I think.
I think it was the second one.
Good.
And we had so many diseases piled up on top of us that if you tried to step out of a disease, you ended up stepping into like layered disease puddles. And by the time they were layered 3 or 4 deep, I couldn't heal through it anymore. So I think we learned a few things. I'm really interested to try it again sometime. But yeah, it was fun. But yeah, disease was definitely the main killer in there. And so now she's ready to go into the new area and hopefully become an even better healer. And maybe there will be less instances of everybody dying, but if there are deaths,
Oh, but then
hopefully
what
they'll
will we
be
have to talk
glorious.
about during LOTRO Players News, right? I mean, you got to
Right.
have people dying.
And then
I mean,
nobody
come on.
can berate me for my lack of healing. Unlike maybe Friday night fight or Friday field trip. However, before the Friday field trip happened, the new Yellow Line Hunter I've been running around with Gorindas on reached level 17. So far without dying. This is kind of major news.
You
Impressive.
just jinxed yourself.
I know, I shouldn't have said that. But I haven't picked up any more groups of Hindervale. I learned a lesson about the lack of longevity of my decoy. And she's learned some new dances. Her decoy has started exploding, which caused Gwendis and I to both jump the first time that it exploded. Because we had just been doing our thing, and we figured it would just be standing there for forever and disappear, and then it exploded right on top of us, and we both jumped. And she's now a member of both the In League and the Ale Association. And
good luck juggling those.
she had fun with that. I mean, the primary reason to start that was to do the 2 quests at the Haunted Burrow, and get the titles, and be able to drink the Lamaliel's vintage that she's been carrying around and have it count. But yeah, that was fun, and I think she's ready for some new adventures. She took on her level 15 quest, and it was very tempting to change back into Blue Line and knock it out, and I didn't. And I was very proud of myself. So, yellow wasn't a problem. I just did the same thing that I always do and ended up looking for Yellowfang at the end. So, it worked, and I got lost, and I got found, and she made it to level 17. So, I'm excited to see how that continues. And on Arkenstone, I almost reached level 100 on my Minstrel Sanswinda, who is a minstrel, which proves it's Arkenstone. But instead of questing to reach level 100, I bravely and foolishly led the Fellowship to a slaughter in an attempt to get First Age allies by killing roving threats. Because our plan for getting First Age allies was thwarted by the lack of ability to transfer items from Landervault to Arkenstone via shared storage, because we had the equipment to create First Age allies on Landervault, and we could use shared storage to transfer them to our alts, and we thought this was brilliant, but that's down right now. So we were like, well, maybe Second Age, maybe we can check the auction house and see if anything's on sale, but of course, all of the First Age allies that are already made are really expensive. I was like, roving threat hunting's not that hard. Like, my Hunter Sanswinda and Landervault has no problem with it. Like,
Famous last words.
What could possibly go wrong? There's 4 of us versus 1 of her. Like, granted, 2 of us are 99, but 2 of us are 100. Like, this, like, we have a good group. We've got a lore master, we've got a guardian, we've got a hunter, and we've got a minstrel. Like, we're set up to go really well. Like, let's start with the North Downs. So we get to the North Downs, we pick up the quests, everything's going well, we go out looking for them, and we find Rotwing. And Rotwing can still kill Sanswinda if she is not paying attention at level 120.
Rotwing's the one you rode into when we were on Girls, right?
Rotwing is the one I rode right into on Girls,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Rotwing and I have a history.
You go way back.
Yeah. Encounters there that are not always, well, Yeah, they usually involve a trip to the red circle. But I was
Or
like,
one of the two of
there's
you.
4 of us, but this is Rotwing, so I'm gonna go full healing mode. I'll just heal the tank because the tank's gonna insist on running in there. I'll heal the tank, and then the lore master and the hunter can DPS Rotwing down. Like, this is fairly foolproof so long as they can get him down quickly. The problem was that he was not wanting to die. His morale did not want to budge a little bit. His morale didn't want to do anything. For an impressive amount of time, we stood there while I healed people, and we shot things at him, and he lost, like, a tiny little fingernail of morale, and then killed us all. So we gave up on killing him, and we went and we found the guy who's stomping around with the 2 Aurochs following him. And I was like, okay, like, standard procedure here with my hunter is, like, somebody else distracts the 2 Aurochs and works on killing them while I kill the big guy, and they all die together. It's great. Like, maybe if we kill the 2 Aurochs first and we have the Lore Master's bear on the big guy, it'll be okay. Like, if we can kill the Aurochs, we'll be fine. We killed the 2 Aurochs. Like, great. But then the guy killed us. And we managed to keep one person up running around while the others rode back in from the red circle. And he promptly killed us again, and one person was up running around. So he didn't reset. But our guardian finally gave up and went and got a higher level hunter to come back and finishing him off. So we got credit for it, except for our guardian. And that was where we decided that roving threat hunting needed to end for the time being. And my little hobbit minstrel is sad because, like, she feels like this should have been totally possible to, like, just walk in and trounce these things, and is now reminded, like, no, that's actually probably not how this is supposed to work. But part of me is, like, happy that, like, they're actually dangerous to her still, and it's not like, oh hey, yeah, like, I can go roving threat hunting whenever I want and just beat them up. So, yeah, mixed reviews there, but decided that maybe they need a different plan for their allies. So we'll see what happens. I still want first stage allies, so we'll see. There's got to be more ways. How was your week, Krister?
Well, last night we attempted Thrones of Dread Terror with my questionable leadership was bolstered by my ultra awesome kinmates and our excellent allies. But in classic Krister fashion, I messed up the loot rules initially, and then I got confused with the loot rule because I just haven't done it in a long time, and I thought it was set in a way that that one person could only loot the whole thing. So we rolled on it. One person did that, and then somebody messaged me and said, "You idiot! Everybody could have gotten in that chest and grabbed something." So I have a nickname called Incompa Krister, and it was going strong last night. So that was, but we managed to almost make it to the end of Thrones. It was just we ran out of time, but it was a good run, in spite of me. So, and then on Halloween we did our Kitzel Kala run, which was great. Luckily, one of my really awesome kinmates, Rudd, went ahead and actually looked up what we should do in that 6-man and went over the mistakes we made. So we are absolutely looking forward to doing that again.
But don't forget the Dome of the Stars. That was an awesome run.
Yeah,
So
now Dome of the Stars was
okay, good.
I felt like I actually kind of redeemed myself a bit because the last couple raids I've led, I haven't felt too great because I forgot 95% of what we were supposed to do. So that didn't really work out too well. But Dome of Stars went really well. And that was the featured instance on Halloween. And then I dressed up as the runtless horse orc. So I dressed up as an orc. I put myself on a horse, and my kinmate runt was not there. So I qualified. It was an authentic costume. And then the only other thing that happened this week is my continuing distress at the contempt that worsty writers have that get in game. as my trample seems to become less and less effective in every release. And I get knocked off my horse all the time. And it's a little bit frustrating because I am, by my nature, a trample. And I need to trample. If you give me trample, I need to trample. So I'm hoping they can make some kind of adjustment where I can be on my war steed a little bit more, so I can trample all my enemies. And two of my allies, hopefully, too.
You're going to be going back to Mordor, so that's good.
Yeah. I think the odds of them doing any buffs to the war steeds at the moment is infinitesimal.
I totally agree with you, Pine Leaf. That's exactly my feeling, too. And
I got to say, one of my absolute favorite memories in Mordor was Krister would trample like a dire horn, and then as the dire horn was in midair, Finn tried to throw a fireball at it. We spent like a half an hour doing that, right? It was so much fun.
We did. We managed to hit it just right where hit the dire horn against the boulder. It was
midair.
It was flying right over Finn's head, and Finn went straight up. The fireball went straight up, and everybody was like, "Whoa!"
It was a great game.
That was so.
Yeah, it was great. Good times. All right, so let's see. My week, I took a casual stroll through Minas Morgul, and when I say Minas Morgul, I mean Minas Morgul. I don't mean the area. I mean the actual, the levels. And I also went to Second Age Barad-dûr because Second Age Barad-dûr is fully built. So I went to see sort of the quote unquote glory, the negative glory that is Barad-dûr. And I have 2 words for everybody that's going to go into this new area. Lots of pots. That's 2 words. LOTSA, pots. Minas Morgul, each level is like a different set of mobs, right? So one level it's whites, and one level it's spirits, and one level is like going back into Saragost again, at least the instance, because it's all Marivals and bats that throw poison all over the place. But it's really interesting. I mean, it was, and it's different than Minas Tirith in the sense that it does have some ramps, but some of the getting from level to level is just up stairways. But it's pretty well marked on the map. And Rudd had told me, one of my kinmates had told me about it, going into an instance and not being able to get out, that you either have to do the instance or you have to port out. There's no, like, once you go through the door, you can't go out. I found that instance. I poured it out. It's like I wasn't going to do it. But there's like 3, I guess, I know they said in the notes that there's 3 mans, and I think they all are around Minas Morgul because I saw at least 2 of them. I think I might have seen 3 of them.
There are 4 3.
4 3-man? Or is it 3 3-man? Anyway, yeah.
Well,
so
I know I ran 4 instances.
Oh, did you? Okay. All right. So maybe there's 4 3-man. And a lot, they seem to be kind of centered around, Minas Morgul itself, right? Like taking the tower and, for the good guys. Anyhow, and then Barad-dûr was interesting, but Barad-dûr is, I mean, every possible mob you can think of that has ever been in LOTRO is like wandering around outside of Barad-dûr. So,
it's a great collection of nasty.
Oh yeah. I had, because I didn't really want to be bothered too much with a lot of fighting, so I had leveled myself up to 130 and I had on anvil armor, and I got my LI ups and stuff, so it wasn't hard when I went through. But when I go through on level, except for the fact that there'll be a lot of people there, so that'll be helpful, but I'm going to be doing a lot of like stealth and sneaking and going, trying to go around things, because it's a lot of stuff. But anyway, yeah, and I picked up some of the pages too, and I think the books that are going to be in that area are going to be really interesting. Because even around, well, in Barad-dûr, that was the Second Age, so you're talking about Last Alliance stuff was really interesting. And then I got both my Bjorning and my LM all the way through the Black Book, thanks to Amalora and Nitesh, and they were very patient because I dual boxed the 2, which was had its moments, but we managed to get, as San said, got Amalora through, and then back to the Kidzalkala. Followed Krister's lead with a little bit of reminding from Rudd, not much, little bit. It was a great Dome of Stars run, as he said. It was awesome. I have to say, as much as I tease Krister, I told him, I said the 2 really good runs I've had on Dome of Stars has been with his leadership. So he's a really good raid lead. Yes, it was very good. And that's the last time I'm going to be nice, at least for the next month. No, I'm just kidding. And then the Kids will call it run. So we've had Cinderina apologizing, we've had Amalur apologizing, and now I'm going to apologize because I went in on my Bjorning, and the first thing Krister says is, "Oh, you could tank," and I'm like, I haven't run her on blue line. I'm sorry, and he's like, "Okay, so come on in anyway." So I went in on yellow line, and the thing is, really, I think you need a fair number of ranged fighters, so because I tried to melee. I mean, Krister was able to melee, but the only way I could melee the thing was to get into the water, which you can only be in there for just so long, and then you start to lose morale. And I felt like what I mainly was spending my time doing was trying to dodge puddles, which, as San said, by the second one you couldn't even do that anymore. So I think part of our, next time we go in, Krister, I'm taking in the hunter. Okay. And the other thing was, Sans didn't say this until Sans pointed it out at the very end, is we were only trying to go after the biting tentacle. And Sans at the very end goes, "Well, next time what we ought to just do is take out all the tentacles." And I'm like, oh my God, V8 moment. Yes, that's what we should have been doing. So next time, hunter, and I'm just gonna like shoot those tentacles down while you fight the bitey one. So anyway,
I mean,
we'll
you
do
may as
better
well
next
start
time.
with the bitey one, though, and if you can get it down before the other ones are spawning.
Yeah, true. That's true. That's true. But the other ones are the ones that are spitting that poison, so you kind of probably
Right.
do want to take them down. But anyway, so yeah, so
Yeah,
we had
there was a component where I have to be on that main bitey
right.
tentacle.
You have
I
to be,
within melee range of it at all time, and I think that's why all those poison puddles were dropping.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then that's what happens is those other ones come up and then they spit, and they don't just spit on the ground either. They actually spit at people, because so a couple times I was like getting hit like point blank with the poison, which was really annoying. There was one time though, I got to say, the thing that's a little bit annoying about the instance is if you die, you don't get to retreat and come back. You know how like Fornos and other places you can do that. You can't do that. You have to wait until the fight's over. And this one time, one of the mobs got hung up. Well, the NPC that we're following goes on. So she went on down the thing, and so Krister was still alive. Everybody else was dead. So Krister followed her down, but because this one NPC up where we were was like caught, none of us could rest. So it was a little Keystone copy, but we learned a lot. So anyhow, so hopefully in a future episode, y'all will have a better report on Kidzalkala. So how about you, Pine Leaf?
We'll begin with my Arkenstone Hunter, who finally completed Bingo Boffin and reached level 100 upon finishing Bingo Boffin. Then in the field trip, as Sanswinda described earlier, we learned the threat and roving threats. Then on my Warden on Honor, I reached the Gap of Rohan. And my Langevall Hunter headed into Enid White and encountered a hobbit with the name of Pine Needle Diggle.
Was it a player character or was it a real?
No, a player character. Yeah, we were all surprised to find this. I think this was at Echad Eregian, I think it was.
Yeah, it was at Eregian.
Yeah. But that was a rather strange name to run it.
Also
obviously,
a hobbit.
Yeah. Yeah, little hobbit. And what was stranger, of course, is that the character could not have been very new because you can't name a character Pine Needle anymore because it has the word needle in it. And I know from personal experience, they now filter out that word.
Why?
Because the word needle, I think someone they thought that Pine Needle has a relationship to the word needle has a relationship to drugs, therefore they filter out the word.
Oh, of course.
And despite the fact that needle has so many other uses, such as sewing.
Yeah.
No, knitting.
Well, you totally buy needles too for some of the crafting things, don't you?
Not really.
Or do you just buy the thread?
Just the thread.
You buy the cloth because it's the crafting supplies is what includes the needles and thread and stuff like that, I think. So, yeah, it's whatever. Anyway, so that was a rather strange character name to run into. And then my Warren, right, okay, actually, yeah, that takes care of everything. So that was my week in LOTRO. Now let's head into news beyond LOTRO, where the Darren Lore Master is posting a trailer to his Riddles in the Dark Wallpaper collection. And we currently have 16 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious raid of players and help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even be guests with us for an episode of LOTRO Players News. This week we did not receive any emails, but if you'd like to send us one, you can send it to podcast@LOTROPlayers.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, LOTRO Players @LOTRO Players, Arendis @Arendis, Pineleaf @PineleafNeils, Sandwinda @Sandwinda, Terry Edwin @Terry Edwin, and Christopher, though, is currently unassailable. And you could also follow Cinders @Emeraldina and Maven @TolkienMaven. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Mondays at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. You have DDO Players News, and on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join to our shows at LOTROPlayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. And this is Pineleaf News reminding you to skirmish responsibly.